time in Psalm 90 this morning. If we could turn there, perhaps we're already there, Psalm 90. Thank you, Wayne, for leading us this morning and for reading this passage for us. For whatever reason, the Lord has just had this psalm on repeat in my mind for the last year, and I thought it would be a good place for us to be this morning. So the Psalms are broken into 5 books, which I didn't even know that until a couple years ago. And this is the beginning of book 4. And so at the beginning of each book, it's just a kind of a transition that the ones that accumulated the Psalms and put them together, that they intentionally placed these different Psalms in spots. And Psalm 90 here then is the only Psalm that we have from Moses. Moses wrote a Psalm. How about that? Another thing I was unaware of until a couple years ago. And so, what does Moses have for us? And that's what we'll see this morning. I'm just going to pray one more time that the Lord would just bless His word to our hearts this morning. Lord, would you stir our hearts through your word right now? As we come to you, we want to see you for who you are, to know you, to follow you all of our days. Lord, may our hearts be humble before you and teach us now through your word. Amen. Verses 1 and 2, and you have the verses in the back of your bulletin as well. I might have you do a little bit of homework with that if you're ready. You don't have to, but you can. We'll see. But let's read verses 1 and 2 to begin once again. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you gave birth to the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. This psalm has a lot to do with time. And so as we read through the psalm, we're going to be looking for some time words. We're going to be looking for indications. As I read through, I think I counted 19 words. So we'll see if we're in agreement afterwards on that. But if you want to, with me, in the back of your bulletin, circle the time words as we go through. You don't have to. It's an option. An interactive element, if you will. Circle any time words that you see. Can you help me out with these first 2 verses then? What couple of time words that we see up there? Yes, exactly. Very good. We see generations, before and from everlasting to everlasting. These first 2 verses look at who God is, and then in the verses following, it's going to look at who man is. It's going to lay out a bit of a contrast. And it's right that we start with God, the Creator, who He is. And it says that God is eternal, and that He's been our eternal dwelling place. This word could be rendered our eternal home or refuge. It has the idea of also kind of like protection in there. That He has been the right and true dwelling place for mankind for all generations. That's where we belong. We belong with Him. He made us. He made us for Himself. Not because He needed us, but out of His abundance He created. Our dwelling, our refuge, our protector. It's actually from the same Hebrew word for the word tabernacle. And when you think about the word tabernacle, it was that idea of the place of meeting, where man came to be with God. And so that's what God is to us. He is the place where we meet with Him. He's our home, where we truly belong. And it says then, before the mountains were born. Don't you love the Psalms and how poetic they are? That just hits differently than the mountains have been there forever, right? Before the mountains were born, yeah, Yahweh was there. The mountains have seen each and every generation pass, right? What is more constant than the mountains? When you think of the beautiful Rockies, I don't know if anybody's been out there, seen those. Majestic, incredible. Our coworkers were just over in Switzerland and saw the Alps. Wait, yes, the Alps. I got confused. We were just talking about the Andes Mountains the other day. Incredible. And they've seen generation come and generation go, and yet God was there before they were. The eternal God. He is without beginning, without end, which we certainly struggle to comprehend, right? We are creatures of time and space. We are limited, and yet God is not like that. It's hard for us to wrap our minds around something that has been before the mountains even were, and yet that is who Yahweh is. From everlasting to everlasting, He's always been, always will be, and He's the right place for humans to be. He's our home, our only real refuge. And this then stands in stark contrast to man, verses 3 through 6. We'll read this. You turn man back into dust and say, Return, O children of men, for 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it passes by, or as a watch in the night. You have swept them away like a flood, and they fall asleep. In the morning they are like grass which sprouts anew. In the morning it flourishes and sprouts anew. Toward evening it fades and withers away. So if God is eternal, if He's been there even more permanently than the mountains have been there, what is man compared to then? Like grass. God before the mountains, and man is like the grass, and the grass of the morning. It says man returns to the dust. Oh, wait. Any time words? Any time words? Any takers? 1,000 years? As yesterday when it is past. Good. We're doing it. Nice. These are all other time words that we see in our passage. So it's, again, contrasting the permanence of God, the eternality of God, and man being different. It says that man returns to the dust from which we came, talking back then to Genesis 3, verse 19, right? Moses, the author of Genesis as well, the one who recorded that history for us, is here in this psalm that he wrote, alluding back to something that he's previously written. Back in Genesis chapter 3, part of the curse of, this was said by God in the curse that for dust you are, right? What was Adam created from? From the soil, from the earth, from the dust. It's that same word. For dust you are, and to dust you shall return. And it's part of our nature then that we come, and then we pass away, and we return to the dust. For 1,000 years to Yahweh. What is 1,000 years to Yahweh? Well, it's no great thing to one who's been there longer than the mountains. But to us as humans, well, that's about 10 generations. That's a lot of time passed. But for the Creator, it's as though it was yesterday. As a watch in the night, it says, which a watch in the night, again, is how the Hebrews counted the day. Specifically then 3 watches during the night. It says, our years are carried away as by a flood. They pass as a dream in the night. They're like the grass of the field. Like what 3 ways? 3 ways to say how quickly our years pass on this earth. Have you ever witnessed a flood? It's fast. It's incredibly quick in most circumstances. And how quickly it comes and takes what it wills, and it passes by. And what passes faster than a dream in the night, or a sleep in the night, it could be translated either way. How quickly it comes and how quickly forgotten, and we're on our way to the next day. Or then too as the grass. And don't think of like soccer field grass that's just like so nice and it's just so thick and it's there all the time. No, it's more like what we have out in our village where there's a type of grass that pops up in the morning with the morning dew, and it just comes up. But then when the heat of the day comes, what happens? Just as fast as it came, it withers right away. And it's amazing how fast it comes and goes, and that's what the author has in mind here, that there's a morning grass that comes up and flourishes, but when the heat of the day comes, it passes quickly. These verses talking about the cruel reality of the brevity of life. Moses is not really sugarcoating what life is actually like. The brevity of mankind, the brevity of me, that is the state of man. The eternal God and man who is like grass. Let's keep reading. Verses 7 through 11. For we have been consumed by your anger and and by your wrath we have been dismayed. You have placed our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. For all our days have declined in your fury. We have finished our years like a sigh. As for the days of our life, they contain 70 years, or if due to strength, 80 years. Yet their pride is but toil and trouble, or labor and sorrow. For soon it is gone, and we fly away. Who understands the power of your anger and your fury according to the fear that is due you? Moses is not particularly bubbly in this psalm. Are you sensing any of that? What is he doing here? Verse 3 again, we've been consumed by your anger, and by your wrath we've been dismayed. When had Moses seen the wrath of God towards sin? Had Moses ever... Yeah, for like most of Moses' life and career, he saw what this looked like. You think of some of these examples. If we look through the Old Testament, you could see Mount Sinai and the golden calf, the complaining of the people towards Moses, and then Aaron and Miriam complaining just a couple chapters later against Moses once again. A couple chapters later, we have the rebellion of Korah and the judgment of God against Moses for striking the rock. Then the bronze serpent is like story after story of mankind going against God and God's right wrath towards sin. Example after example. So in Moses' mind, how fresh is the wrath of God towards sin? Moses and the nation of Israel had seen God's response to sin, even to the point of seeing so many die as a result of their rebellion, right? That Moses led them out of Egypt towards the promised land, and instead of going into the promised land by faith, God's saying like, you don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. We're going to go into the promised land. They're like, there's giants. We're not cool with this. And God's like, okay, you can go to the wilderness. And nobody's going to go into the promised land. No adult male will go into the promised land other than Joshua and Caleb. And so many estimate that it's like 1.5 to 2 million Israelites were led out of Egypt. And so you think of how many adult males there would have been within that, and how many then they saw within those 40 years in the wilderness. Moses knew well the wrath of God and the brevity of mankind. He knew sin even in his own heart. We think of Moses as a great leader, and he was, and God used him, but he was also an angry dude. Time and time again, showing his anger to the point where he strikes the rock, and God says, you can't go into the promised land either, because you misrepresented who I am to the people by your anger. Moses and the people of Israel were very familiar with the wrath of God towards sin. God is holy. He cannot stand sin. He will not stand for it. Sin is everything that is counter to the perfect nature of God. That he's so good, so just, so right, and yet man keeps trying to do the opposite. Man loves injustice. Man loves what is wrong. Man goes against God. God can't stand for that. And so in verse 10, Moses says, as the days of our life, they're 70 years, or even if due to strength, they're 80 years, right? If mankind lives to their fullest days, which maybe it's 70, 80 years, maybe now 90, 100 years, even if we live to our fullest days, Moses says, even the best years, the strongest years, when you're like the most vibrant, yeah, that's just toil and trouble. Oh, thanks, Moses. Nice. Even our best years here on earth, when we have the most vitality and the most strength, are simply toil and trouble. These two words in Hebrew, toil and trouble, aven and amal, it kind of has that alliteration to it intentionally there. The aven then is like that idea of toil, and toil not simply being labor, right? God created us to work. Work is good, but that idea of like work in vain. Who wants that? It's like work that's done, but it's ultimately not producing anything. It's not, there's no result at the end. And then the other word, amal, is the idea of wickedness, of pain that results. And so even our good years are full of problems. It's not pretty. It's not clean. Our world is not how it was made to be. All of this sure makes it sound pretty terrible, doesn't it? But is it true? Is it real? God is everlasting. Us, not so much. Our lives pass quickly. Sin and death are a constant part of the human experience. If we don't recognize this, if we don't wrestle with this, we're simply choosing to deceive ourselves. And you guys are sitting there like, thanks for the pep talk, Ryan. This is just what I needed today. But Moses doesn't leave it there, and we can't stay there either, right? It's good that we acknowledge that these are realities and part of our world. But Moses doesn't leave us there, and we shouldn't stay there for long either. In light of the eternal God, in light of the brevity of mankind, in light of our sin and the suffering that it brings to our world, what does Moses pray? And I do think that that's what these last words are. It's a prayer of Moses. What does he request of the one true God? Let's read verses 12 through 17. 12 through 17. So teach us to number our days, that we may present to you a heart of wisdom. Do return, O Lord. How long will it be? And be sorry, or have pity, or have compassion on your servants. Oh, satisfy us in the morning with your loving kindness, that we may sing for joy and be glad all of our days. Make us glad according to the days that you have afflicted us, and the years we have seen evil. Let your work appear to your servants, and your majesty to their children. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and confirm for us the work of our hands. Yes, confirm the work of our hands. What a passage, what a prayer. Teach us, dear Father, to number our days. If we remember that life is short, if we remember how the brevity of our life here on earth, that it's like a dream in the night, that it's like grass which withers, well, then we have a limited resource, don't we? How then should we use a limited resource? If you have 12 bottles of water to cross a desert with, will you use one of those bottles to wash your hands? Hygiene is important. But in that moment, hygiene is not what is truly important. Hydration is what is important. And so you will not use one of the 12 for hygiene when it could be used for hydration. If we have a limited resource, Lord, teach us to use that limited resource in a wise way. And James says, for any who lack wisdom, let him ask of God who gives generously. We don't have a stingy God. We don't have a God that's hoarding what he has and says, you need some? I could give you a little bit. We have a God who gives generously. And so if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God who gives generously. Lord, give us wisdom. Give us wisdom to use these limited days wisely. How's this going for you, brother? How's this going for you, sister? Are you using the days that you have well? Listen, I'm not saying that we don't rest. God rested. That's a command given to us. We rest. That's not to say that we don't play. God made us to also enjoy the good gifts that he's given to us. But it does mean we have a limited resource. So let's use these resources in balance and in wisdom. Let's be good stewards of what God has given to us. How then can we be good stewards? What does this look like? We ask God to teach us. This is a beautiful morning prayer, and I want to commend these verses to you as a prayer that you could pray this week. Each morning, come to these verses. Pray through these verses, 12 through 17, and use it as a morning prayer. Lord, teach me today to number today as one of the limited days that you've given to me, and let me use it in a wise way. I encourage you, I exhort you to do that. And then the next part of your morning prayer can be, satisfy us, Lord, with your mercy. It says in 13, return, O Lord, how long? Do you feel that, how long? If you've lived on the earth long enough to see the sin and toil and wickedness, you have that cry in your heart as well. How long, Lord? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love. There again is one of those time words, in the morning. In the morning. And again, what does it say about the morning? It says we are like the grass of the morning that comes up and flourishes. And so I think what it's saying here is, while we have time here on earth, Lord, satisfy us. Satisfy us for our days here on earth. What is he satisfying us with? With his mercy. Just like grass that needs regular water, dear Lord, give me mercy today. Give us this day our daily bread. The only way to live, to grow, to thrive is to be satisfied with the water of life, to be satisfied by his love and by his mercy. And then it says, make us glad according to the days in which you have afflicted us. Isn't that a wonderfully poetic way? Again, almost seeing our days as being an affliction, because our greatest days are but toil and trouble. But Lord, with that affliction, make us glad. And the years that we have seen evil on the earth, Lord, there's another psalm that says, I would have despaired unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Outside of the Lord making us glad within this life, there is only despair. And yet we believe, because God is good and he is who he says he is, that we will see good in the land of the living. Are we looking for it? Make us glad, O Lord. So to recap a little bit, there's a temptation as we look at the realities of our world, as we see the toil and trouble in our limited years, to think, well, we live in a broken world, life is short, so does anything even matter? If I'm like grass, do I really need to care very much about what goes on? I'm here today, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. What does it matter? But these last few verses address this temptation so beautifully. Verse 16, once again, let your work appear to your servants and your majesty to their children. It speaks of that desire to see Yahweh at work. And had Moses also seen the work of Yahweh? Absolutely. He'd seen God deliver them from the land of Egypt. Who could do that? The 10 plagues in Egypt. He saw God provide meat in the wilderness, water in the wilderness, provision after provision, and ultimately bringing them to the promised land, though Moses didn't get to taste it at that time. He had seen the work of the Lord, and yet he was looking for more. Lord, show us your works. We want to see you at work. And guys, what a privileged place we have in history to have seen the greatest work God has ever done in the person of Jesus Christ. He sent his only Son to rescue us from the very toil and trouble that we suffer from, to rescue us from our certain death, to rescue us from the world, the flesh, and the devil. Our greatest problem, our deepest fear has been satisfied by the work of God in his Son. And so these realities that Moses is seeing, these realities of the shortness of our life, these realities of the toil and trouble, the wickedness that we see in this world, you know what God could have done? He could have said, he could have left us to that. He said, you chose it. Now you get it. But instead, Jesus says, no, I'll enter into that. I'll dive in fully into the wickedness that mankind experiences, and I'll experience that wickedness too. The toil and trouble, the limited days, okay. I'll become a human and I'll experience that as well. Death, the creator of the world would subject himself to death. Our greatest problem, our deepest need, our biggest fear has been met in the work of God through Jesus Christ. He came, he died and was buried, and he rose again from the grave, saying death no longer has that power over him or over any who believe in him. Oh, brother, sister, that is good news for us today. 1 Corinthians 15. I'm going to turn there briefly so I can get 54 as well. 1 Corinthians 15, beginning in 54, says, "But when this perishable," and that's all that Moses has been talking about in the psalm up until this prayer, "for this perishable must put on the imperishable, and this mortal must put on immortality. But when this perishable will have put on the imperishable, and this mortal will put on immortality, then will come about the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law." And the reality is that today we're still experiencing that. We're not able to fully say, "Oh death, where is your sting?" We still feel the sting of death today. Everett and Mike and Kathy, they're feeling the sting of death, and I know that you have felt the sting of death as well. One day we will be able to say to death, "Death, where's your sting today? Grave, where's your victory?" But thanks be to God who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Praise the Lord. Moses is looking to see the works of God here on earth, and he wants to see God intervene, and God did intervene. But we also can continue to look for God at work today. Yes, he did the best possible work for us in the cross, dealing with our death, dealing with the pain and trouble that we experience in this life, but we still want to see him work. This is still a part of our daily prayer. Lord, we want to see you at work. May my eyes be open to see where you're working around me, and may I be ready to partner with that work, Lord. What we do in life matters. Death itself will die, and what is dead no longer has power. Jesus has given us the victory that he won over sin and death, because the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. The glory is of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. And now we can experience that work and keep looking for his work today. When Jesus saw all that Moses described, the shortness of his life, the great pain and problems that exist for us as humans, he didn't keep his distance. He entered into our problem and pain to break its power and to give life meaning. Our life can matter because of his work. And now we get that eternal home that has always been the proper place for mankind to be. That's his work. That's what he's done. And now his work makes our work matter. And that's the last verse. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us and confirm or establish the work of our hands upon us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. Moses is saying, make what we do matter as well. I see that life is short. I see that it's full of toil and trouble, but I want our work to matter as well. And because of Jesus, because of his work, our work too can matter. And that's good news. Who doesn't want what they do to matter? God made us to work. He gave Adam and Eve this gift of work, the stewardship of what he had made. And so then the very next verse in 1 Corinthians is this. Because Jesus has shown his power over the grave and has given us life, well, now Paul's exhortation to the Corinthian church was, therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. What we do matters because his work matters. We don't want our work to simply be Aven and Amal, toil and trouble, vain effort and wickedness. we're told that no, our work will not be in vain when it is done in the Lord. His work makes our work matter. To kind of wrap up, I want to read a quote from a book that I recommend to you called Remember Death by Matthew McCulloch. Really powerful book. And he has a chapter that addresses many of the things that we've been talking about this morning. And he says this: Are your days filled with tasks that never move anywhere and never get finished? Are there always more reports to file, more exams to grade, more dishes to wash, or meals to prepare, taxes to file? Am I right? Thank Jesus that his work is finished. That means our work doesn't have to be finished to be useful or even satisfying. With each new day and each new task, you have an opportunity to reflect the life and love of the one who lived and died and rose for you. Your Lord took up the towel and washed the feet of his disciples, and he calls his servants to do as he has done, which means he is pleased when you serve others in his name. No work that pleases him will ever be in vain. I don't know about you, but that's great encouragement to my heart. Psalm 90 then reminds us that God is eternal and he's our true home. It reminds us that yes, life is short, and even our best years experience toil, experience wickedness. But, by the grace of God, our work here on earth can and does matter because his work matters. He rescued us from sin and death to give us an eternal home with him and redeem our work today. So, our prayer is, Lord, teach us to number our days, that we may present to you a heart of wisdom. Satisfy us in the morning with your love and mercy. Let us see your work today, both the work that you've already done and the work that you're going to do, and establish the work of our hands upon us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. Let's pray. Our Father, you're good all the time. Yes, Lord, we live a limited number of days, and that's true for each and every one of us. And Lord, I pray that we would recognize that, and we would wrestle with that. But Lord, that we wouldn't stay there, but we would see what Jesus has done, that you also sent your Son to live in our state and to experience what we experience, to rescue from our greatest problem and our deepest fear. Lord, you're so good. Thank you that you sent your Son, and thank you that you continue to be at work today. Help us to be expectant, to look for your work and how you are at work in our lives and in the people around us. And Lord, may our work matter. May we work according to your power, according to your strength, and we know that our labor will not then be in vain when it's done in the Lord. Thank you for this. Thank you that death will one day lose its sting, that death will one day die because Jesus died and he rose again. We love you. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I believe we can close our time then